Meow.
The Bat, the Cat, the Penguin. That was the tagline for 1992's Batman Returns, the sequel to what was at the time the biggest blockbuster to ever hit the big screen. I was young at the time, about 4 years old. This movie is the first movie I remember ever going to see in theaters, where I went with my dad and my older sister. I don't remember much of the reaction, but Batman Returns had a very divisive reaction when it was released in theaters in June 1992. I was too young to remember what the reaction was in my screening. From Sam Hamm's original script, who didn't write the final screenplay but did receive a story credit, the opening lines were, "It's finally happened. Hell's frozen over." The decision to set this movie at Christmas time is an interesting choice. The plot of the movie deals with the appearance of the mysterious Penguin played by Danny DeVito, who is reimagined not as an esteemed gentleman, but as a freak. Batman, played once again by Michael Keaton, also has to deal with the appearance of Catwoman, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, as well as the business manifestations of Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. You see, Batman Returns mainly suffers from the reoccurring problem with these movies. They are more about the villains than they are about Batman himself. In fact, one of the things I found myself asking throughout the movie is, where is Batman? For a movie called Batman Returns, he seems like he's barely in it. The opening of the film focuses on Penguin getting thrown into the sewer by his parents. A very odd opening. It implies that Penguin was literally raised by penguins. It's definitely trying to go for a different feel than the original 1989 film. The idea of a man who was cast out as an outcast for his looks is nothing new to Batman. So, to start off, let's begin with Max Schreck, a crooked city planner who identifies himself as a people person. He's quite sexist.
Ms. Kyle. In the plus column, though. She makes a hell of a cup of coffee.
Yet he pretends to be Mr. Charming Nice Guy.
I wish I could hand out world peace and unconditional love.
He wants to create a power plant that will essentially allow him to monopolize Gotham's energy for himself. It's all about the Benjamins for Schreck.
This power plant is my legacy. It's what I leave behind.
Not to mention when he meets the Penguin, he seems completely unnerved by who he's meeting. Of course, Max doesn't see Penguin as a friend, but merely someone he can use to exploit for mayor so he can build that power plant of his. Not to mention the way he treats Selina is, for lack of a better word, horrible.
You know, for a second there, you really frightened me.
However, there are some layers to Schreck, as he does genuinely care for his son, wherein he finds the one selfless aspect in his otherwise irredeemable soul. Schreck represents Batman's side as the wealthy millionaire. Now here's where things get interesting. You see, this character was supposed to be Harvey Dent. The film would have explored his psyche gradually decreasing, and the explosion at the end of the film would have merely scarred him, thus setting him up to be Two-Face in the third film. Now, when you consider the character's political aspirations, a lot of the plot beats make a lot more sense if it is Harvey Dent. Although Harvey in the original 1989 film was characterized as being genuinely well-meaning, who wanted the best for Gotham, and supposedly he would have been much more sympathetic than Schreck. I do think that this character should have been Harvey, as it would have been more interesting to have him set up to become Two-Face for the third film. Of course, the third film did end up using Two-Face, albeit in a different form than Tim Burton most likely would have done, but that's for another time. The Penguin is characterized as being very different than he typically is. Tim Burton once recalled, "You could find the psychological profile of Batman, Catwoman, Joker, but the Penguin was just this guy with a cigarette and a top hat. What is he? He's deformed and he's an outcast. He appeals to Max Schreck because, as he says, they are both monsters, but Schreck is a well-respected monster. Essentially a villain with good publicity. But you see, he is still a deformed, depraved monster, but at the same time, deep down, you can see him struggling between the man and the monster."
I am a man. I have a name. I am not a human being. I am an animal. Cold-blooded.
Basically, the idea is that he tried to appeal to society, but when society rejected him, he lashed out. But you can't entirely feel sorry for him, as Batman was entirely in the right to expose him. Penguin represents Batman's side as an outcast or a freak. Catwoman, or Selina Kyle, when she's first introduced, she's basically a pushover.
Well, actually, really just more like a question.
She's basically a down-on-her-luck woman who doesn't have a husband at this point in her life.
Honey, I'm home! Oh, I forgot. I'm not married.
But when Schreck basically pushes her out the window, Selina Kyle essentially dies and comes back to life by cats biting her. Kind of a weird metaphor. Selina finally lashes out and goes mad. So Catwoman represents Batman's vigilante side. She's a very complex character. You can tell she's frustrated where she's gone in her life, so you do have sympathy for her.
I don't know about you, Miss Kitty, but I feel so much yummier.
Now I finally get to Batman, and to be honest, the villains all represent aspects of Batman's personality. He does get a really cool introduction to the movie. Batman doesn't get much in this movie. All his development comes through the other villains. Now, apparently in Sam Hamm's draft, Batman was meant to have his no-killing rule. Instead, in the finished film, Batman kills quite gleefully at times. So really, it makes the part where he tries to call Selina out from killing Max kind of hypocritical. Yet, I think there's actually a reason for this. In the original comics, Batman didn't get his no-killing rule until later. I think this is the film where he realizes that maybe he shouldn't be killing off his enemies. He emphasizes with Penguin for the loss of his parents.
I think he knows who his parents are. There's something else.
Really, that's what Batman sees in Penguin and in Selina Kyle. There's the dynamic between who is the man and who is the mask. You see, unlike Superman and Spider-Man, Batman has pretty much decided that Batman is the true face and Bruce Wayne is the mask. His relationship with Selina tends to expose him maybe wanting to settle down and have that family after all. A true form of subtlety is shown when at the costume party, Bruce and Selina are the only ones who aren't wearing masks, and the scene where they finally reveal themselves for who they are is actually done very well. Then there's just the surreal where Penguin and Catwoman team up. You see, Penguin's plan is to turn the Batmobile into his own merry-go-round, which feels like something Joker would do. Supposedly there was a deleted scene that would have shown how Penguin's goons figured out how to reverse engineer the Batmobile. Basically, their plan is to frame Batman by kidnapping the Ice Princess, and of course, everyone except Gordon is easily convinced that Batman did this. I mean, sure, why not? Of course, Batman goes to the Batmobile unaware that it's been tampered with.
Gentlemen, start your screaming!
Okay, this is really just surreal. Penguin is controlling the Batmobile and taking it for a joyride. Of course, Batman discovers what's going on and stops just in time. Of course, that leads to the scene where Batman basically turns the Batmobile into a bat missile. So the Dark Knight film was not the first movie to do that. It definitely has a, hey kids, buy this toy feel to it, which is, you know, the purpose of everything ever made. The main theme of the film is loneliness. Batman, Catwoman, and Penguin are all similar in that regard. They each were adopted by an animal. They were all abandoned in some way or mistreated. And when you break it down, they are very lonely people who are outcasts in the world. That's why Batman wants to save Catwoman, because he sees a kindred spirit. It's why he expresses sympathy for the Penguin. But he knows that he can't allow him to become mayor of Gotham City. When Penguin accuses Batman of being jealous, Batman even admits,
You might be right.
one little touch that I know somebody brought up to me is how Penguin's plans become less and less complex and more ridiculous the more frustrated with Batman he gets. First, the plan is to become mayor of Gotham. When Batman annoys him, they set up elaborate schemes to frame Batman for murder. Then when Batman survives and exposes him by record-scratching a CD, he decides to do an elaborate scheme to murder every firstborn child in Gotham. Then, when Batman foils that, he decides, screw it, let's just blow everyone up with penguin rockets. I find that the second half of the film is weaker than the amazing build-up. The climactic finale where Penguin confronts Batman, and Penguin is given a karmic death by being surrounded by bats and falling into the water. Supposedly this was originally planned for the Joker in the first film, but was repurposed here. At the end, the happy ending is seemingly achieved.
What does it say? Split. Right down the center.
Of course, the scene where Batman unmasks right in front of Schreck is really stupid, but I guess I'll let it slide. But unfortunately, the happy ending cannot be achieved.
I just couldn't live with myself, so don't pretend this is a happy ending.
Bruce is trying not to let Selina give in to her demons, but he's a hypocrite who lost his soul the moment he put on the mask. So maybe, just maybe, he's trying not to let her fall down the same path. But in the end, Schreck gets his just desserts when Selina quite literally gives him a kiss of death.
How about a kiss, Santa Claus?
Now, if this was Harvey, this would have merely scarred him, thus setting him up to be Two-Face. Of course, the film lingers just long enough to show Penguin's final moments, and the deformed freak of Gotham dies, hated and hating to his very last breath. This should be ridiculous, but strangely it just works. The ending of the film is very somber and bittersweet as our hero doesn't really have anything to show for his efforts, but with Batman, sometimes he'll get a happy ending and sometimes he doesn't. So, Batman Returns, is it a good movie or a bad movie? Well, I can't speak for everyone here, and it's not for everyone. Some will like it, some won't. There is a lot of genuinely good stuff here, and for Tim Burton's final Batman movie, it was not that bad of an exit. Of course, maybe if they hadn't replaced him with Joel Schumacher, the franchise wouldn't have so spectacularly imploded like it did in 1997 with Batman and Robin. But in a way, Tim Burton got to leave his own lasting legacy on The Dark Knight.
Goodwill toward men. And women.